about a bird's eye view of what I'm looking at. And that was the film that turned me on to cinema. I have a soft spot for telling stories about people who maligned or just deeply misunderstood. Sex work is so rife with metaphor. I forced to get better. We had 6 days to shoot at 19 locations.
Okay, so I like to start these with one question. What is your current favorite song?
Oh God. You know what? Actually, I saw that yacht rock documentary that was on Netflix.
So
and it in it is the George Benson song "Turn Your Love Around." And I was like,
fantastic song.
I forgot what an amazing song that is. Yeah. I feel like I remember it being on like in CVS when I was a kid or something, and it was just like, part of the ether, and I never really paid attention to it. And I feel like that documentary, I don't know. I mean, the point of the documentary is that people have kind of derided yacht rock and dismissed it as not real music. And that's not true at all. There's just so much behind it.
Yeah.
And that song is perfect.
Yeah, that documentary is so good. I am here with Julia Hebner. Hopefully I said that last name right. Okay, good.
Hebner.
And first of all, I want to congratulate you on your film getting into DeadCenter.
Thank
Big
you
thing.
So much.
And we're here to talk about your film, Jeff, that premiered there. So I would like to start off, if people probably watching this, or maybe they have seen it, but for the people that haven't seen it and checking this out, what is Jeff about?
Okay, so it is about a phone sex operator who takes a call from a man who confesses to pedophilia.
Okay. Very simple. I like it.
It's a real downer.
Yeah. So I'm really fascinated with the time when creatives are growing up in their 20s, trying to figure out who they are as creative people and stuff like that, and also their journey. Because everyone talks about the very beginning and then when they got somewhere, but not really that hard time of trying and layering and stuff like that. So I kind of want to go through that journey, but let's start at the very beginning. So how did you want to start being a creative? And I read in an article saying that you kind of always seen yourself as a writer. Writer was the main thing for you.
Yes.
So how did you come to that realization, and how did you get there?
Well, I think from a very early age, I was enamored with film and realized that is what I want to do. But it just never felt accessible. And writing is, of course, anybody can do it. And I do think that's how I naturally express myself. But I realized when I write, I think a lot about dialogue, and I kind of think about a bird's eye view of what I'm looking at, and it is dramatic, and so it makes sense.
Yeah.
And I've most of my writing comes from a place of observing people and thinking about how people talk and how they interact with each other, and so it's just a natural connection. But I've always been enamored with film. When I was 10, 11, 12, adolescent, I would seek out a lot of films on my own, a lot of films that I was way too young for, but just really went down the rabbit hole of cinema around that age, as a lot of people do.
Yeah.
And you just realize that this is, you have light bulb moments. This is it. This is art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was the film that really ignited that, do you think?
So it makes it sound like there's a through line and a thread when you think about the content of my film, but I would have to say it's Paul Thomas Anderson's Boogie Nights.
Okay.
I saw it when I was about 12, which again, way too young to see it. I didn't realize what I was getting into, but that was my light bulb moment of cinema is art.
Yeah.
It's just, it's almost 3 hours long. It's very a lot of his work was inspired by Altman, and Boogie Nights is very much that ensemble meandering. And it was just, it's an epic. And it was also even at 12, I was like, well, what this is ostensibly a film about the porn industry, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's a film about family and abandonment and chosen family, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think that was the film that turned me on to cinema.
Okay, awesome. And it's always weird, those weird ones. People either have those really artistic ones or really odd movies that you see at a young age. Mine was The Color of Money from Martin Scorsese. Yes. Yeah. When I saw that, I was like, oh, this. And that's what made me fall in love with soundtracks was that movie and everything. And Boogie Nights, great soundtrack, obviously.
Yeah. Oh, and that just made me think of I had another light bulb moment that I had with that movie is camera work, because he opens with this it's got to be at least 60-second tracking shot that goes he opens on a sign outside a club, comes down in through the door, goes all around the club, and we meet all the characters that we're going to be with for the next 3 hours. And it's just, you're moving through the crowd. It's really one of the great tracking shots.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was another light bulb moment where I was just like, this camera work is telling the story and setting it up. And yeah.
Yeah. And I kind of want to move on. So you figured it out and stuff like that. And then we eventually got to a point where you, I think it was your first short where it was a silent black and white film that you made.
Yes. Yeah.
And so how do we get from, okay, I want to direct and you started writing and that's how you saw it. How do we get from there to making that first film?
So that was my first film school film.
Okay.
So I grew up in New York and New Jersey, right outside of New York, North Jersey, and enamored with it, but it always felt inaccessible. We didn't have money, and I kind of put the idea to bed as impractical. I went to school for something else. I went to Rutgers, and then I just realized, no, I still have this itch. And New York Film Academy is probably the more accessible of the film schools, at least in New York. It's conservatory programs, and it's not selective, and that's not to disparage it. I think that is its strong suit, that anyone can take a class, and I took loans. Everyone can take a class at New York Film Academy, and you learn production, you learn how to make a movie, and it was suddenly just accessible. And that was our first assignment. We had to do silent, black and white, 16 millimeter. And that was a continuity project. So we couldn't break. It had to be, it was 60 seconds without breaking continuity.
Yeah.
So it was the story of this catering waitress at a party who spots her ex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, the tension there was so nice. That moment that you shoot just in the small room in a New York apartment of the kitchen where it's just kind of falling apart at the scenes. Awesome
Thank
scene.
you.
So then we kind of go on to your film Bad Lobster. So I watched this and prepared for this. And sorry about that. But what was so fascinating about that movie was, first of all, how you shot it was just beautiful. It opens up with the main character staring at the lobster, talking to it. And then you do the creative point of then it reveals who's talking. So do you think, because what I'm getting, I haven't seen your short film yet.
Okay.
But what I'm getting from just kind of the films you have been making is these very real stories in a type of medium that people don't really explore that much. So do you think that kind of relates back to your love of Boogie Nights and how that was told and stuff like that? Do you feel like there's some influence in there?
I do think, if anything, I have a soft spot for telling stories about people who are either maligned or just deeply misunderstood.
Yeah.
And that's a movie about misfits. I'm definitely drawn to writing about sex workers in a lot of my films because, number one, very maligned, very misunderstood. And I also think a lot of my work is about gender, especially this film, Jeff. And sex work is just so rife with metaphor. And it's such a great place for exploring tropes and exploring how we interact with each other through the lens of gender.
Okay, awesome. So with Jeff and that, you did an interview that I saw that one of the things that you said you felt more comfortable was the writing, like we already said. But one thing you really wanted to improve on was editing. If they asked you, if there's one thing you could do, and you said editing is something that you really would want to improve on. So with Jeff, do you feel like you improved on that in some way?
I do. I think I had no choice.
Yeah.
So I don't think... it's never ideal to edit your own work for many reasons. You need another pair of eyes. Yeah. But I had to edit Jeff just because we were out of money. And I gave it to other people to look at, but it was really just me.
Yeah.
And so I was forced to get better, that's how you do it. You learn by doing. And so I do feel I do feel more competent after that, and I feel you realize where the holes are in your footage. You realize, what you need, what shot could have been there to express a moment better, what shot's not there for continuity, and that's just like doing that makes you a better filmmaker the next time around.
Yeah. So I want to go in the between era from Bad Lobster to Jeff. So you just finished Jeff. I'm sorry, just finished Bad Lobster at this point, and you're on the way to Jeff. So how from Bad Lobster did Jeff come from?
Well, Jeff is a true story, and I had written the script for it a few years before we were ever able to shoot. So I was, like I said, from New York. I was living in, I'm living in Austin, and didn't really know anybody there. And so, again, I just kind of shelved it because I was just like, this doesn't seem feasible. And I've gotten to know, in just the past 2 years, I've gotten to know a lot of the Austin film community through a film collective called Hyperreal Film Club. They are an online journal, and they now they have a cinema space. They until I guess September they were screening films at a bar, but yeah, it's become a hub for the film community, and so I was able to meet my DP through that and a producer, and it all spiraled from that. So it was just a matter of it becoming a feasible thing to do. I always wanted to do it. And of course, obviously the pandemic gets in the way.
Yeah.
And I also have, I have 2 kids. And so that makes it very hard.
Yeah.
When I was doing pre-production for Jeff, my daughter was a tiny little newborn.
Oh, wow.
And so, but I just figured if I don't do it now, time's going to slip through my fingers. I got to do it. Yeah.
Okay. So one thing I'm I think as film people or just creatives, we get a lot out of things we watch, things we create and stuff like that. So you made Jeff, and right after Jeff, reflecting on it now, what did you learn? It could be filmmaking, it could be personal. What did you learn from making that film that you would potentially use for your next project you make?
Oh my God. I mean, every film is so many lessons.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing I've taken away from it is just a personal thing of really being assertive, sticking to my guns, and, everyone's there for the director's vision. And I am a competent director, but I think, anyone who's an artist has a lot of self-doubt, a lot of fear about, oh my God, I'm getting all these people together for my stupid idea. And the reality is nobody's thinking of it that way. Everyone's here to make art, and they're happy to, most people are just happy to make art. That's why we're in this. And so I guess this has helped me approach the future with more confidence.
Okay.
But just on a technical level, I mean, it's been a masterclass in producing, definitely a masterclass in producing. I do feel ready to. I feel ready to move up. I feel ready to do a feature after it. Yeah.
Awesome. That's a really cool experience to have that confidence build up to that. So I want to know is the people that are watching this, if they have seen Jeff or haven't seen Jeff. What is a little hidden thing you have put in the movie that people probably wouldn't catch on a first watch? Oh God! No spoilers, of course.
Okay. Well, let me.
Yeah.
Think.
Was there anything in the production you're oh, this would be a cool thing to put in there?
Yeah. A little Easter egg. Oh, let me think. Well, that's a really good question. I'm trying to think about each set. We had so many sets.
Yeah.
We had 19 locations.
Wow.
Yeah.
How was organizing that?
Oh, that was, talk about a masterclass in producing, because we had 6 days to shoot at 19 locations. So we would have days with 3 company moves.
Wow.
And so we've got 2 hours in a location. So we're in and out and in and out. God. Well, we shot at a place called the Classic Inn in Austin, which was, I think it is actually still standing, but it was set to be condemned and knocked down the month after we shot. And I kept, because it's a very generic name, and it was about to be demolished. They had this amazing mid-century neon sign, like the classic in outside, and I was like, well, this is just kind of perfect, and it's generic enough that I don't need to get rid of it. So the sign is in there, and it is kind of like, it's this perfect like beacon in the night, and but it is this kind of Austin landmark. So I guess that's a little thing for anyone who's been to Austin. But I think
that's a perfect answer.
I have to think about it.
Yeah. I think that's a perfect answer. But another thing, so you said Jeff was based off a true story.
Mm-hmm.
So what made you read the story and like, I have to tell this? Like all the way back before you even started making it. Like you said, you've written it a while and put it on a shelf.
So it's a true story that happened to me.
Oh, wow.
So I was very compelled.
Yeah,
So
it's very personal.
I'll tell you. Well, no, I can't tell you the story because it involves spoilers.
Yeah.
But I will. What I can say without spoiling it is that I was a phone sex operator for a time, and a friend of mine who's an actress in New York, and we were so broke, and she was like, "Oh, well, I've been doing this on the side," because she met someone through a play who operated a phone sex line, and she was like, "Oh, I made like $2,000 in a week. It's so easy. It's $1 a minute." And I was like, "This sounds too good to be true." And I was like, I'll be nervous. Like, I'm not going to be able to do it. I'll laugh. And she was like, no, it's like improv. And so I did it, and it truly is like improv, where you'll get on the phone with somebody and they'll be like, this is the character I want you to play. This is the scene. These are the beats I want you to hit. Boom, 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 and scene. And it is very much, you're like in it like an actor hitting your beats. And so there's no time to think. And it is just like acting. And yeah, there's no time to laugh. There's no time to even think. And it is a wild window into the human psyche.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, I've got many stories. Jeff was just the strangest of all the stories.
Yeah.
Because people call lines like that. The reason lines still exist, the reason phone sex still exists, even when we have like OnlyFans and so many other means of being anonymous and interacting with people. There's something about the intimacy of just having someone's voice.
Yeah.
That you really are connecting with their humanity. So it creates the safe space where people are ready to be vulnerable and dump their secrets in a way where they never would even if you can't see each other's faces, you wouldn't even be that vulnerable with someone whose face you can see.
Yeah.
Even if they can't see yours, and they're right in your ear. And so people use it for therapy. People use it for confession. A lot of people use it to unload the things that they're shameful about, whether that has to do with sex or not.
Yeah.
And yeah, so this man called, and I will say, because I say it in the premise, he talks about having pedophilic urges, and was so plaintive and was just being very vulnerable with me. And you are talking to another human being, and I ended up talking to this man in real life for 3 hours, and the real name he used was Jeff. But
wow.
I used it in the film because that's obviously not his real name.
Yeah.
And it's also it's like a kind of perfectly everyman name.
Mm-hmm. Such a cool name.
It's a cool name because
it
works because it's not like John.
Yeah.
It's just a little less generic, but it's also an everyman name.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he is not the main character. Marcia is the main character, but I titled it Jeff because he is the specter that haunts her and haunts women.
Yeah.
But sorry, I've strayed.
No, no, awesome. I love this. This is fantastic.
But I realized, like, when it happened, this conversation that went on for 3 hours was just so, it goes to crazy places that I can't address for spoilers.
Yeah.
But I got off the phone and I was just like, oh my God. And there is an outcome that there's an end to the story that happens after the phone call
Yeah.
that is also real. And it became a story that I just was telling at parties. And like I noticed every time I'd tell it, and like people who'd heard it, if I was like at a party, would be like, "Oh my God, Julia needs to tell this story."
Yeah.
And like I would realize in telling it, like I'd suddenly have like a group of people like just silent, wrapped, and that it has like it's very rare in real life that a narrative falls in your lap that has a beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah.
That you don't really need to do anything to, and it has a twist ending. Real life rarely serves you these things. And I was like, I didn't need to do anything.
Yeah, it was like,
any
okay,
embellishment to it. This is
on
the story.
page.
And people are, and sometimes like the cliche goes, life is weirder than anything you make up. And yeah, I just realized like when I had consistently such a rapt audience, I was like, well, this has to be a film. It is like, it did go through many iterations in the writing because watching two people talk on the phone is not visually interesting. And I thought, well, maybe it could be if we had actors who can really carry it. But I quickly realized that wasn't, and we'd have to find a way to circumvent that and make it cinematic. So I have taken, the events are all true. I have turned them into something surreal.
Okay. Okay. So I have two questions left for you. One of them is that, so from Bad Lobster, what did you learn from that set that you implemented into Jeff? Like you were like, okay, you were making Bad Lobster. You're like, oh, I really wish I could improve that. So you did in Jeff.
Ooh. It's a little hard to say because there's such different films.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so the thing is with Bad Lobster, I shot that right after New York Film Academy. So I had like access to gear. I had access to people. We knew somebody who got us our location for free. So we shot it. We were very, very lucky that we had resources and we were able to shoot it for almost nothing.
Yeah.
And which was not the case for Jeff at all. We shot it for very little, but we didn't have all these free resources that I had.
It was
in
a
New
lot
York.
more work. You had
It was
to
a
do.
lot more work.
New
work.
place of living and stuff
Yes,
like that.
and that's the thing is like, in New York, like I kind of know how to navigate it more, know how to ask people for things, know what I can and can't ask for. And just different city, different rules.
Yeah.
And, but I think maybe budgeting time, because we had 2 days to shoot Bad Lobster, really a day and a half. And one of the days we had to get all our exteriors and it was pouring rain. And I don't know if you can tell a little bit, but it was pouring rain. And this poor girl's got to like run around New York in these like high heels and It ends up being, those shots weren't intended to be funny, but when we watch them back, we're like, this is a very funny montage of her running around the city like dee, 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 dee. But no, I think you learn a little bit you have to learn to edit on the spot as a director, and be a little bit of an AD as a director. Be like, okay, what do we have time to shoot? You got to prioritize on the spot. Like, what are the minimum shots we need to get from point A to point B and tell this story and have it make sense? And that we had to do with all of our exteriors because it was raining so hard and we were shooting digital. Well, I mean, any camera, you don't want in the rain like that. But yeah, and we had to, because of the rain, we had to reduce to a skeleton crew. And so it was just on the spot of, okay, like shot list out the window. How do we do this in like hour and a half? Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So I like to end these interviews on basically when a film's getting talked about and stuff and seen on screen, there's a lot of people don't really know, that worked on behind the scenes. So who are some people you would like to shout out that really put a lot of hard work into Jeff and help make your vision that people probably wouldn't know just off, first glance?
So this is a film that relies a lot on costume. And so there are two people that I would like to highlight there. Our stylist, Elena Stuber, was really responsible. So we go through a lot of different worlds in this, and so our lead actress has to become like 19 different people, and there were 19 like really, really distinct looks, and I'd have to like, and well, again, time is a precious precious thing, and I'd have to shorthand, be like, this is the vibe I want to get from her. Here's a quick film reference, and she would do it.
Wow.
And like we have a strip club scene, and I was like, this is a strip club like off of a like a highway exit, and like I want a little bit of a grunge thing, like grungy vibe. I want like she's changing in the kitchen, and like this place is cheap, and a little bit of a little bit of Zola, and she just threw, like I was too busy to like really look at like what she was putting together, and like my actress comes out, I was like, perfect. And there's at one point I have her be the Virgin Mary, and Elena was doing the makeup, and she was like, in doing the makeup, she's like, I realized she's a doll, and she's like pale and like the pink cheeks, and she's like, she's got to be the statue. She's got to be like the statue with the tears.
Oh wow!
And she put these like plastic, like glue tears on her face, and that became the iconic shot of the film, is her as the Virgin Mary with the tears. And it was an image. I had the image of the Virgin Mary, but I didn't, like, she really took it to the next level and made it something stunning and arresting. So her, and then Lygia Janga also did costumes, and we had no budget, so for the Virgin Mary, for example, I was just we're gonna do bed sheets because we just didn't have anything, and she was like, well, I sew.
Oh,
and
wow.
She's like, I'll whip something up, and she made a stunning costume and hand dyed it, but just this beautiful draping that just like, oh, we were so lucky, because what I was going to do out of bed sheets would not have remotely had the same effect. So those are two people that I would definitely, absolutely shout out. I also want to say it was very important for me to have as much of a like female, non-binary, queer set as I could have. And our camera department was like mostly women, which is something I'm proud of. And even like Grip and Electric, we had a much higher, like a much stronger feminine presence than on most sets I've been on. So I just want to shout out that entire camera team. We had a rolling crew because we couldn't pay people, so we'd have like different people every day. So there's too many people for me to list off, but they made it. They made this film. Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool. That's so cool. So before we end, we'd like to shout out any of your future projects where the people can follow you, and then eventually where they can find Jeff and watch it for themselves. Okay,
yeah. So the best place to find me is on Instagram at Julia Hebner. There's also an Instagram for the film at Jeff Short Film. They link to each other. I'm not as active as I want to be because, like I said, I have two little ones, and I have a full-time job that has nothing to do with film, and I'm trying to do film. So I don't post as much as I want to, but I'm always on there, and I'm always like, I'm responsive if people contact me. I also have a website, juliahebner.com, where I try to keep my portfolio as up to date as I can. And the next thing I have on the docket is I am developing Jeff into a feature.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah,
okay.
it's in the early stages, but I know exactly what I want. It's tonally quite a bit different. Just short film and feature films are almost two different mediums. The short is almost something closer to poetry, I think, whereas something feature length is very different. But it's like bigger and weirder and very surreal and kind of maximalist. And so we're developing that, aiming to shoot next summer.
Awesome.
So we will, fingers crossed.
Hey, you could be here again.
You could be here again.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say, if I do have, this doesn't like answer your question, but if I have parting words, it's like just like make it happen.
Yeah.
Like I know like people say that, don't wait for people to give you permission, but like truly like, features are daunting because it's like a lot more money.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you are dogged, like you'll get there.
Yeah.
You'll get there. Just be so dogged.
Yeah.
I feel like there's anything else I was I'm making a fashion film for Elena.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's it's a surreal thing about, well, I do a lot of surreal.
Yeah.
But it's about 3 archaeology grad students in the indeterminate future who find a suitcase full of clothing, and one of them becomes kind of entranced and obsessed with figuring out the identity of this long gone person, and it becomes a little bit of a ghost story.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's such a cool idea. But yeah, I agree with you. Like, I've always been led by the motto, just start, just do it. Like I've been doing videos since I was 12 years old, and I'm sitting here in this chair, and I think it goes with any creative medium for anyone. But exactly what you said. Like, 100%. Just start. Yeah.
Yeah. The example that I always give people is, have you ever seen American Movie?
No, I don't think so.
It is a great documentary. I think it's either the 80s or it might be the early 90s. But it's this guy in, I forget if it's Michigan or Wisconsin. But he's up there in the cold. And he is, it's his journey making this film, and it's very low budget, and he doesn't have a background. He just has passion and a camera, and he has his little town that he ropes into it. Nobody's an actor. Nobody's a professional. Nobody knows what they're doing. But they just kind of believe in him. And it works as a documentary because he's like, you get the impression that the film is like not very good or silly or just unprofessional and meandering, and we never see the film.
Yeah.
But he made it.
Yeah.
He made it, and he showed it in the theater, and people came and like they sold out the theater, and this is like the 80s or early 90s, and this man is still making films. He's still doing